All right. So if you happen to have a block and or a strap handy, you can have those someplace near your space. If you don't have them, there's several different alternatives that we can work with without having them. So don't fret if you don't have one. We're going to just start out on the mat in a comfortable reclined position. And know that you can always start out seated or on a chair if that's your preference. This morning, I'm just going to take my feet a little bit wider, like mat width distance, and allow my knees to kind of tent in on one another. And you can do the same, or you can do something different if you'd like. And starting out with a few longer inhalations, breathing in all the way, filling up the lungs, the diaphragm, the belly, everything is just filling up. And then a long, deep exhalation, letting go with that long, deep exhalation. Taking that 2 or 3 more times at your own pace, filling up, filling up, filling up on the inhalation, and then letting go, letting go, letting go on the exhalation. Whenever you feel like you're done with those longer, deeper breaths, allow a little space and time to return to your normal breathing pattern. Just taking a brief inventory, scanning over the body, noticing how the body is here, noticing how the mind is here, noticing how the heart is here. There's nothing that needs to be fixed or corrected or changed. Just taking note, noticing what's here. When we notice what's here, we have the opportunity to respond with compassion. And so if those opportunities for compassion present themselves, offer compassion. Just kind of experimenting with that a little bit. From here, we'll start adding a bit of movement into the practice. So if you'd like to, you can take your hands to the kneecaps and just circle the knees open, together, and around. So making kind of a circle on the ceiling with the knees, pulling them in towards the chest, pressing them away, and circling them around. And then reversing directions of that motion, circling around and coming back together. And then coming in to center, and we'll release the feet down. If you have a strap or a belt, go ahead and grab that. We're going to loop it around the right foot. If you don't have one, you can take hands to the back of the thigh, the calf, kind of wherever is a good accessible place. If you have a strap, you're taking that strap in the right hand, and you can have your left leg extended long, or you can have it bent for more support. We're going to move with the breath a little bit here. Inhaling, opening that right leg, and then exhaling, bringing it back towards center. And you don't have to take a huge range of motion here. We're just kind of starting to warm up a little bit. As you come back to center with that leg, you can take it a little bit across the body, just kind of warming up here through the IT band area, hamstrings, inner thigh, warming up, slow and steady. You can take your left hand on your left hip too, if you'd like to, just to really ground through that area. Flex the left foot, stay active through that left side. Starting to wake up the core a little bit here too, as you try to keep the torso pretty steady. And from there, you can release the strap, hug that right knee in towards the chest, maybe take a few ankle circles. I love to have my eyes closed on these beginning stretches since we're reclined and safe and no concerns about falling. It's kind of a nice way to stay centered and internally focused. So that's an option as well. We'll take that strap and place it in the left foot, left hand. If you want to have both hands on the strap, I kind of like to have just the left hand. We'll take that leg just a little bit across and then open it out towards the left. Finding a fairly slow but steady range of motion. You can keep your right hand on your right hip, keep that right foot flexed if you'd like to. Anchoring down on that right side. And continuing just to notice if there's places where that stretch feels really good, if there's places of tightness, places of ease, just simply noticing. No need to fix anything. And maybe taking that another time or two. And then we'll take that left knee and hug it in towards the chest, perhaps taking some ankle circles. Inviting some length into the neck, so taking the crown of the head and reaching it towards the top of the mat. And then pulling both knees in towards the chest. You can tuck your chin here too if you'd like to, come into a little ball, or you could keep your head and shoulders still planted on the mat. Maybe a little rock side to side. And then we'll take the legs so that the knees are stacked on top of the hips. And right away after doing that, just engage with a sense of neutral spine. So sometimes when you do that, the low back can come way up off of the mat, or sometimes it can feel a little bit awkward or uncomfortable. So find that space where the core is engaged and the spine is pretty neutral. It's not painful. You may even decide to press the low back just a little bit down onto the mat. And then we'll take the shoulders and plant them on top of the elbows rather, on top of the shoulders. Palms of the hands are going to face towards one another. Elbows are bent, and just plug those shoulder blades down onto the mat as well. So the whole back body super connected to the back of the mat. Hips, shoulders, mid back, upper back, all connected down onto the mat. And we're going to keep our chest broad and keep this really slow to start with. So we're going to take our right arm and our left leg and extend those long, and then bend. And then take our left arm and our right leg and extend those long and bend. Right arm and left leg, extend and bend, and left arm and right leg, extend and bend. So taking that really slow at your own pace, extending opposite arm, opposite leg, and then bending. Kind of pausing in center to reset yourself. Keeping the whole back body connected down onto the mat. Core is engaged. And then from there, we're going to extend all of our limbs. So if you want, you can have a little bend in the knees or a fairly significant bend in the knees. Just make sure that you're not feeling as though your back is being pulled or strained here. And we will take the right arm out towards the right and the left leg out towards the left. And then exhale, bring them back stacked on top. And then we'll take the right leg and the left arm out to the side and then pull them back together. Again, taking that really slow, but at your own pace. Opposite limbs go out to the side and then stack back on top of hips and shoulders. The whole back body stays connected to the mat as you move. Trying not to shift side to side too much. We're keeping the core engaged. Anytime you feel strain or pain, feel free to hug the knees into the chest, take a little pause. And then from here, once again, limbs are going to be stacked, and we're going to reach the right arm overhead and lower the left leg down. And then exhale, bring them back up. Left arm and right leg lower. And then using the core to bring them back up. Taking that at your own pace. Those other limbs are still facing up towards the ceiling. And you can keep this range of motion in one that is appropriate for you. So you don't have to lower your leg all the way down to the mat. You don't have to lower your arm all the way down to the mat. You can keep that range of motion just kind of to that point where you start to feel the core engaged, but not like a pulling on the spot on the low back or too much of a strain there in the low back, keeping the core really consciously engaged. And maybe one or two more times on each side. And from here, taking hands back to the kneecaps and just circling them around like we did before. Opening the legs, bringing them back together, making that circle with the knees and the hips, and then reversing direction. And we'll take both legs over towards the right, just guiding them over with the right hand, reaching the left arm out towards the left, opening up through the chest, getting some rotation through the spine. Maybe a little release for the low back. And coming back to center and taking that over in the opposite direction. You can take your gaze out towards the right if you'd like to. Encourage the right hip down, creating length and space through the right side body. And coming back to center, and we'll begin to make our way up to a seated position. And from here, you can take your legs out in front of you. If you do have your strap, you can grab that. Start to engage the quadricep muscles so the knees face right up towards the ceiling and you're sitting right up on top of the sits bones. Crown of the head reaches up and kind of elongating through the spine. So hips reach down, shoulders, head, all of that reaches up. Very active, lengthened pose. You can have as much or as little of a bend in the knees as you'd like to. For my body, it tends to work fairly well to have the knees straight, but that is not the case for everyone. And then from here, we'll begin to fold forward using the strap or not. So that strap can be around the feet, or you can have your hands on the shins, on the thighs, the feet, whatever works for you. Reaching the heart forward, allowing the pelvis to tip a little bit. And on the next inhalation, coming all the way up, keeping that sense that the legs, the quadricep muscles are engaged, sits bones are rooted down, crown of the head reaches up. And we'll inhale, reach those arms up, and exhale, rotate over towards the left. Left arm can reach back, right arm can just kind of be at the outer left knee. Long spine as best as possible. And inhale, reach those arms up, lengthen, lengthen, lengthen. And then exhale, take that twist in the opposite direction, maintaining that sense of length through the torso. And on the next inhalation, coming back to center, parting the feet just a little bit. For this one, I like to have a bend in the knees. I know not everybody does, but for me, it helps with spinal articulation. So you can experiment with bend in the knees or not. Keeping the spine, again, super lengthened. We're not going for a hamstring stretch here. We're going for spinal articulation. So arms reach forward and kind of just like how we were in that dead bug, in that reclined position that we were in before. Shoulders are open as if you were actually laying down on the mat like we were before with the arms stacked on top of the shoulders. So kind of that same type of position. And we'll begin with the crown of the head and start to articulate the spine forward, hugging in the navel as you reach the fingertips forward. So kind of hollowing out the belly, squeezing, maintaining stability in the pelvis and the legs, and then inhaling, articulating up, one vertebra at a time. Taking that a few more times, so you should feel this in the core. It's different than that pose that we just did before with the strap where we were stretching the hamstring muscles. This one, we're articulating the spine and waking up the core. Taking that a few more times at your own pace, stabilizing through the pelvis, articulating through the spine, engaging the core, and then coming all the way back up. From here, we're going to take that same movement, but add a twist. So you'll take your left arm and sweep it back. Right arm reaches forward. You're still maintaining pelvic stability as you articulate the spine forward, reaching right hand over towards left pinky toe. Inhaling up, switching sides, exhaling, articulating forward. Both sits bones stay rooted, pelvis stays neutral. I'm taking that a few more times on each side. Focus is still on spinal articulation and core strength. Leading with the crown of the head as you come down, and then reversing that as you come up. And last side, last time. And coming all the way back up. So from here, what you can do is you could stay seated for cat-cow, or you can come kneeling for cat-cow. Either one is fine. Finding that neutral spine And then moving from flexion to extension, just kind of doing that in your own way, whatever feels good today, moving from flexion to extension in the spine, moving through the pelvis, the shoulders, the mid-spine, maybe making it a little bit more of your own, perhaps. If you want to take it a little side to side or pause in one position or the other. And if you're seated, you can take one leg out to the side. You can take your left leg out to the side. If you're here with me in this kneeling position, we're going to take our left leg out to the side so that that big toe edge is down and the leg is pretty much out from the hip. And from there, just a little slide forward and back, kind of a rocking forward and back, getting into that inner thigh a little bit more. Continuing to wake the core up as you slide forward and back. And then from here, you can scooch that foot just a little bit more forward. We're going to bring a slight bend to it. And this one, we're just kind of circling around a little bit. So there's not exactly a right or wrong answer to this. You can kind of go side to side a little bit. You can go circular if you want to. Finding those spots that are a nice stretch for the inner thighs. And then releasing from that side. From here, we'll take the right leg out towards the right and slide forward and back, kind of like we did before. Again, just like we've been doing, if there's a spot that feels like, oh, this is a really great stretch, definitely stay there a little longer if that feels really nice. If something doesn't feel nice, certainly feel free to avoid it if it's painful, or ease into it if it's not painful, but maybe a little intense. And then from there, scooching that foot in just a little more. It's kind of a bit of an angle, and you're just maybe circling around or maybe a forward and back, just kind of getting into that inner thigh a little bit more. A little more of a circular motion. And then releasing from that. From here, we will come up to a standing position all the way at the top of the mat. Shoulders down and away from the ears, crown of the head reaches up. We're going to do a chair flow, which of course I'll walk you through. So we'll keep our feet about hip width distance apart. Inhale, reach the arms up, elongate through the whole torso. On the exhale, begin to fold forward, hinging at the hips, spine is long. On the next inhale, reach forward into your halfway lift. So hands can be on the shins, the mat, if you're using a chair or blocks, they could be there. Finding that lengthened spine. And from here, we're going to bend deeply into the knees, reach the hips back, keep that torso really long and hovering over those legs. So quadricep muscles are starting to engage. From here, you've got several options. You could take your hands to your thighs. If you've got a chair or something you're working with, you could take them there. Or you could reach your arms forward, hovering the chest above those thighs, reaching the hips back, reaching the fingers forward in opposition, and then standing all the way back up, arms reach up, gaze can come up if you'd like. On the next exhalation, hinging forward, folding forward. Feel that stretch through the backs of the legs, length through the spine. Inhale, reach the chest forward for your halfway lift. Exhale, bend through the knees, keeping that sense of hinging through those hips. So the torso stays long. We're not rounding as we reach back. It's pretty active. Kind of like going off the, if you're on the swim team, I don't know if it would be kind of like going off the block. My daughter would probably correct me. She's on swim team. She'd say that's not. That's not how it is, but that's kind of how it looks to me anyway. From here, hands could be on the thighs, or you could reach the arms forward at the same time you're reaching the hips back in opposition, and then standing all the way up. Inhaling here, exhaling, folding forward. We'll go through this 1 or 2 more times. Inhale for your halfway lift. Exhale, bend deeply through the knees. Knees stay in line with the hips and ankles as best as possible. Hands can come to the thighs or reach forward. Neck is long, core is engaged, legs are certainly engaged. Inhale, stand up strong, and we'll do that one last time. Exhaling to bow forward. Inhaling for your halfway lift. Exhaling to fold. And take those bent knees, reach the chest forward. Hands on the thighs or reaching forward. Breathing here. And inhale, come all the way back up, reaching up. Release the arms down, maybe take a few shoulder rolls back and a few shoulder rolls forward. And we'll come into our first sun salutation now. So feet again, hip width distance. Inhale, reach the arms up, and exhale, fold forward. Take a little pause here. Experience that stretch through the backs of the legs. Hands can be on the mat, the shins, or whatever you've got for props. Inhale for your halfway lift. And then on the next exhalation, fold forward. Let's step the left leg back into a lunge position here. You can be down on the knee or you can be standing, whichever feels more supportive and stable for you. I'll come standing this time. Right knee stacked on top of right ankle, and we'll reach the arms up here. On the exhalation, we'll take those arms and just grab for opposite elbows as the arms loop under that right leg. And then inhale, reach up. So taking that at your own pace. And the arms you don't have to actually touch the elbows. They can kind of come and maybe you touch fingertips, whatever works for you. And then this next time we're down, we're going to stay down a little bit and just kind of reach the chest forward. So allowing those arms to give you a bit of leverage, you can reach the chest forward and reach that left heel back. Reaching forward through the crown of the head, reaching back through the left heel. And then from here, we'll place the left hand down, reach that right arm up, coming into a twist, maybe taking a few wrist circles. And then taking that right hand to the big toe edge of the right foot. You can use your block or your chair, or hands can be on the mat, and we'll just take a little shift forward and back here, kind of stretching out a little bit. Just a small shift forward and back. And then we'll take our right leg back to meet the left in downward facing dog. Take that transition however is best for you. Maybe shake the head no, release the jaw, grip down through all sides of the hand. Breathing here. And we'll come forward into plank position. And on the next exhalation, come all the way down to the mat. We're going to take our arms out, kind of to goalpost arms on the fingertips. So you're kind of tenting the hands a little bit. We'll inhale up just slightly, legs stay active, and then exhale, take that right ear down, turning over towards the left. Inhale up and through, and then take that left ear down. Taking that at your own pace, kind of lifting up and over, pausing, resting on the ear, and then coming to the other side at your own pace. And then the next time you're kind of at center, you can take your hands and stack them and maybe take windshield wiper legs, or perhaps take your child's pose or your downward facing dog. And then from here, either coming to child's pose or perhaps meeting in downward facing dog. Maybe finding some stillness or some organic movement of your choice. If you like to take your transition to lunge by coming to all fours, you can do that. Otherwise, scooping that left foot forward between the two hands for your lunge position. You can be down on that right knee for more stability, or you can come up into a high lunge. Arms can reach up. Make sure that you're firmly rooted so you feel pretty stable here before adding the movement. Make sure you're not on a tightrope with the feet. And then exhale, take the arms and kind of give a little hug to the back of the left leg, and then really push through that left foot, keeping the bend in the knee, keeping stability in that leg as you float the arms up and down, trying to stay as steady and stable in that front leg. We're working on a lot of strength and stability through the muscles and joints on that side. And then from there, pausing with the hands kind of hugging behind the left leg, and see if you can use that for a little bit of leverage to pull the crown of the head forward, the chest forward, and then pull that left leg back, the right leg back. Right heel reaches back, crown of the head reaches forward. And then you can take right hand down and reach that left arm up as we come into a twist. Chest is open. Arms reach actively. And replacing the left hand to the big toe edge of that left foot. And we'll take that little slide forward and back. And then you can heel toe that left foot a little closer towards center and take that right foot forward to meet the left. We'll find our halfway lift here. And exhale, folding everything in. If you'd like to, you can take opposite hands to opposite elbows. Take a little sway side to side. Swaying through the torso. Arms just come along for the ride. Releasing the hands, rooting through the feet, softening the knees a bit, and making your way up to standing. Hands will come to the low back and we'll lift the chest. And then come back to a neutral standing position. Feet about hip width distance. We're going to work with balance a bit here. Taking our right foot, we're going to come into tree pose. So that right heel can come to the inseam of the left leg, or you can take it up higher along that inseam of the leg. Whatever works for you. Hands can be holding on to a wall or a counter, a chair, or you can have your hands at heart center. Spending a little time here in tree pose, encouraging that right knee away from the body. And then hands can stay just as they are, or you can float the arms back as we hinge forward into warrior three. Torso is long, foot reaches back, crown of the head reaches forward. Hold on to anything or nothing, just kind of depending on what feels best for you. Really active through the glutes and hamstrings on that right side. And then you can completely step out, or you can kind of float that leg all the way through and hug that right shin in towards the chest, standing up tall here. And then just kind of experimentally, you can experiment with removing the hands, maybe reaching the arms up, utilizing the core a little bit more here. And just having that leg hovering, releasing the arms, and then releasing that right foot down. We'll do the same thing with the left side, taking that left leg open. Left foot can be kind of supporting you like a kickstand. Toes could be down, or you can bring that foot up a little bit higher. Finding a focal point to gaze at, using whatever support you need. And breathing here, left knee away from the body, kind of turning open for that inner thigh stretch. Torso elongating, crown of the head reaching up. Gazing at a focal point. And then keeping the hands as they are, or maybe floating the arms to your sides for airplane arms. Hinging at the hip and reaching that left leg back for warrior three. Pick a posture that is supportive for you, challenging but accessible. And then maybe floating that leg all the way forward, maybe stepping out and resetting yourself. Standing up nice and tall here with the shin hugging in. And then perhaps experimenting with removing the hands, maybe reaching the arms up. And then releasing down from that. Coming back up to the top of the mat, inhaling the arms up and exhaling, folding forward. We'll step the right foot back first this time, finding it at a bit of an angle. So we are going to come into warrior one. So right toes at that 45-degree angle, kind of up towards the top right corner of the mat. And we'll lunge through the left knee. And just double check that your legs are wide enough that you feel supported in the pose, but you're not crisscrossed or anything, but not like so wide that it feels unstable either. There's that kind of fine point where it feels solid and rooted. So taking your time to kind of establish that for yourself. Arms can reach up here. We're going to do the same thing we did before. As we exhale down, wings of a bird, hands can come around to the back of that left leg. And then rooting through that left foot, keeping the bend in the left knee, reaching the arms up and reaching the arms down. Taking your time with that, feeling the legs engage, finding stability. And then maybe one more time, exhaling down and inhaling up. From here, you can straighten through that left leg. Hands can come to lace at the low back, and we'll draw the shoulder blades together as we lift the chest. Lift the gaze slightly, perhaps. And then re-bend through that front left knee and begin to articulate down into humble warrior. Hugging the left leg in. Left shoulder comes kind of towards the middle or the inner part of the left knee rather than resting on the left knee. And just be mindful of that left hip swaying way out to the left. Keeping that bend in the left knee. And releasing the hands, we'll plant the hands down onto the mat or the chair or whatever you're using. Heel toe that left foot towards center, and we'll take the right leg up for standing splits. Hinging at the hip, this is the one that I often call single leg forward fold, because that's kind of the feeling that you want in your upper body, that you're just hinging over that left leg. Right leg reaches up. And then we'll take that right foot to meet the left. Inhale for a halfway lift, and then exhale, fold back in. And we'll step the left leg back. Left toes angle up towards the top left corner of the mat. Feet are still about hip width distance apart on the width of the mat. And finding your way up to standing. Once you get there, feel free to readjust as much or as little as you'd like, so that the feet feel firmly rooted, especially all sides of that left foot. Sometimes people will have such a long stance that they can't root down on the pinky edge. So find some stability there. Arms can reach up. And then exhale, wings of a bird, arms float down underneath the right leg. And inhale, come back up. Try as best as possible to maintain that stability in the right leg, pushing down on the right foot to rise up. Taking that perhaps a few more times. And the next time you're up, you can stay up. Begin to straighten through that right knee. Hands can come to the low back, laced or not, whatever's best for your shoulders. And start to lift the chest with that lengthened, straight right leg. Rebend the right knee and begin to bow forward for humble warrior. And I didn't say this on the other side, but always with humble warrior, if those laced fingers do not feel good, the arms reaching up do not feel good, take your hands down to your block, your chair, your mat. Work on kind of finding humble warrior in the low body with the added stability for the upper body. You don't have to have the arms like this. Another breath or two here. Crown of the head is heavy, neck is long. Release the arms, heel toe that right foot towards center, and extend the left leg up for your single leg forward fold, your standing splits. I like to point the left toes, but it might feel more active for you to flex the left foot. You can experiment with that. Sometimes those little things create a big difference. And then we'll release when you're ready. Left foot to meet the right. Take a bend in the knees and make our way down to the mat. And we will do just a couple abdominal exercises and a few stretches. So you can take your block if you have one, and you can place it kind of the long or the more narrow way between the two thighs. If you don't have a block, no problem at all. We'll start to find boat pose. So we're leaning back, engaging the core. Heels can be planted. Hands can stay at the backs of the thighs or not. You can lift the legs or not. can take the hands to heart center or not. So we're going to take opposite heel down. So maintaining stability, bending one knee a little deeper, tapping the heel, and then bringing it back up. Trying to maintain stability in the rest of the leg, or I should say the rest of the body. If you'd like to, you can tap both heels and lift, both heels and lift. Taking pauses whenever you need to, especially if you have pain or sharpness in the low back. And releasing from that. Taking that block off to the side. We're going to bring the legs wide here, sit up really tall, and then begin to walk forward. Just climb the hands forward. There's nothing, no legs or limbs or anything in the way with the legs parted, so you can just climb the arms as far forward as they go. Feet are active, knees turned up towards the ceiling. And then walking all the way back upright. If you've got that block, you can place it back between the thighs. If you don't, it's not a problem. You don't have to have the block. You can still do the same movements without it. It just kind of provides a little bit more of an internal kind of squeezing everything towards center. So if you've got that block, just give it a little bit of a squeeze and take a few rounds of pelvic movement, just kind of finding that place where you're not pressing the low back, you're not lifting the low back. It's nice and neutral. And this little movement can kind of free things up a little bit. Just loosening up and finding neutral. Hands will come to the back of the head now, feet root down onto the mat. And you can exhale up for a mini crunch, lifting shoulders and chest, and then reach the arms forward, maybe lifting a little bit higher. Take those hands back to the back of the head and lower down. We'll take that a few times. Exhaling to lift, keeping just that bit of space between chin and chest. Arms reach forward, lift a little higher. Hands come to the back of the head and we'll lower down. Slow and steady, exhaling up, arms reach, hands replace, hands lower back down. Last time, exhaling to lift, arms reach, hands come to the back of the head, and lower all the way down. You can remove the block here or you can keep it in place, whatever feels good for you. And we'll take just a few more rounds of that low back flexion and extension, just kind of lifting and lowering the low back, moving through the pelvis. And then coming back to a place of neutral, taking the block off to the side, we'll cross the right ankle on top of the left knee and pull everything in from the back of the left leg. So from here, kind of get settled in, and then we'll have a few opportunities to add some things. So from here, continue to pull your left leg in without lifting the low back way off of the mat. And then take your right elbow and just kind of push your right inner thigh away from you. So giving a bit more of a stretch for the hip there. And then in addition to that, take a little lean over towards the left. And see if that gets into that kind of glute piriformis, outer hip, that whole area. And you can experiment with how much you push, how much you lean. See if you can find that sweet spot. And coming back to center, we'll replace the right foot. Cross that left ankle on top of the right knee and hug everything in. I like to flex the left foot, keeping it a bit more active. And then you can start to press your left elbow into that left inner thigh, just kind of, I guess, pushing it away from the body a bit. At the same time that you pull in with the hands reaching that right thigh towards you. And then you can take a slight lean over towards the right. Just a little bit, not so much that you're like rolling all the way over onto the hip, but just a slight lean over so there's a little more weight on the right side than the left. And see what that does to the stretch. And gently coming back to center, you can take the feet about mat width distance. Goal post the arms if you'd like to, so palms of the hands are up towards the ceiling. Arms are at your sides, elbows are bent. And then take the legs from right to left and from left to right, windshield wiping the legs back and forth. Perhaps allowing the knees to open in the middle, and then both legs to fall over to the side. Releasing from that, you can take an inventory again here and just double check if there's any other stretches or poses that you want to take before you make your way to a resting pose. So some people, I'll just give you a few different options. You can take them or leave them. Some people really like to place the block right underneath the kind of tailbone, low back area. Not too low, not too high. If it's too high, that's not going to feel good. You want the tailbone to be supported. And then people sometimes like to take their legs up in this position and rest in this way. So if the block doesn't feel supportive, you can take the legs down and move the block someplace a little bit different. So that's one option. And then another option, if you happen to have a wall nearby, which when we're all together in the same room, it doesn't seem like there's usually enough walls, but if you have a wall nearby, you can scoot your hips right up to connect with that wall and bring the legs up the wall. And rest in this way. So those are some different options to choose from, or you can do your own thing. Wherever you are, allowing the body to let go, inviting the mind to continue to be right here, right now. Following the breath as you inhale and as you exhale. came across a quote this morning from a mindfulness teacher, Sharon Salzberg. And I think the quote very much applies to our lives and to our yoga practice. So I wanted to share it with you. Very simple affirmation. May I recognize my limits compassionately. May I recognize my limits compassionately. Now, if you have your legs up the wall or legs up on the block, feel free to take some time to transition. You may not want to jump up immediately after doing that. I want to take just a bit of time with that at your own pace. I would like to thank you all for sharing your practice and sharing your positive energy with each other and with me this morning. Namaste.